A young kid begs his injured sister to stay alive while they are walking through a violent blizzard, pledging to save her no matter what. Tanjiro Kamado hears his mother calling to him as he carries a basket of charcoal. She informs him that she is concerned for his safety because it is snowing heavily, while he is pedaling as she wipes the soot from his face. He responds by explaining that he is willing to sell as much charcoal as possible in order for his family to have a good New Year's meal. When he's going to leave, his younger brother and sister want to follow him, but their mother forbids them because he will be moving much more quickly than they are. Both of them announce their willingness to assist Tanjiro in a horrified manner. Hanako and Shigeru are reassured that he would pay them both attention when he gets back. When he meets Takeo, his other younger brother, he tells him to prepare firewood for them. To Takeo's dismay and the amusement of his family, Tanjiro pats his head gently to reassure him as he becomes a little frustrated at not being able to join him. He runs across Nezuko, his younger sister, who is riding Rokuta on her back as they depart. She reveals to him that they had all looked up to him as a role model ever since their father passed away. Tanjiro wishes him luck and thinks to himself about his family's living predicament as he walks away. Since life can change drastically, much like the weather, they have always made the most of their tense existence. As Tanjiro approaches a neighboring village to start selling his charcoal, he overhears several residents praising and thanking him for his earlier efforts. He hears a young man screaming out to him who is hurt and has been accused of breaking a plate by a store clerk. To the relief of the man, he determines from his keen sense of smell that a cat had broken it. A second man calls him over to offer assistance with some large luggage. Tanjiro's basket empty and the night falling, he begins to walk home when an elderly neighbor who lives close stops him and warns him not to go into the mountain. Despite Tanjiro's insistence that his sense of smell will keep him safe, the guy harshly orders him to spend the night at his house because demons prowl the area at night. Tanjiro, who was given dinner as a gift, questions Saburo about what devils are like. He explains to them the danger of going over the mountain now because devils only procreate in the dark. Tanjiro is given a futon to sleep on and inquires if demons may infiltrate homes. Saburo responds that they can. Then he adds that demon slayers are here to defend them because of it. Tanjiro feels sorry for Saburo because he lost his family to demons, and he wants to meet him again with his siblings so they may console him. He departs Saburo's home at first light and heads for his own. He suddenly smells blood as he gets closer to his house and dashes there quickly. He sees a bloodied, dying Nezuko holding Rokuta in her arms in the front yard. He rushes up to her body in amazement and inquires as to what had transpired before turning to gaze inside his home. He discovers his mother and the rest of his family dead, with blood all over the house, to his horror. Tanjiro, who felt that Nezuko's body was the only one remaining warm, drags her across the snow-covered mountain to the town for assistance. He strains to carry her through the blizzard as his breathing becomes labored from the cold, as he attempts to make sense of what can have possibly happened. Nezuko suddenly starts writhing, raising herself and groaning in an animalistic way. She snatches Tanjiro, and they both fall off a precipice after leaving the mountain trail. Tanjiro glances up, shielded from the fall by the deep snow, and notices his sister is standing straight. Nezuko tries to attack him when he asks if she can walk by herself, requiring him to place the handle of his hatchet in her mouth to prevent being bit. When Tanjiro thinks back to Saburo's remarks, he believes that Nezuko is now a demon, but doubts that she was the one who killed everyone because he remembers that there was another fragrance in the house. As Nezuko becomes bigger, Tanjiro finds it difficult to contain her. Tanjiro begs her to keep back and not be a demon as he laments the horrible death of his family while he slept. Nezuko cries after hearing what he said and stops attacking her brother. A young man carrying a sword rushes in their direction and makes an airborne leap. To the surprise of the swordsman, Tanjiro sees him and moves Nezuko out of the direction of the attack. The force of the strike causes a windstorm that sweeps Tanjiro and Nezuko away, with the latter shrinking back to normal size. His blade descends and narrowly misses Tanjiro's head. Tanjiro discovers the words, "Destroy demons," carved on the sword as he turns to face their attacker. When the swordsman inquires as to why he is guarding the monster, Tanjiro responds that Nezuko, his younger sister, is the demon. Tanjiro informs the demon slayer that another scent was there at their home during the murder of his family, and might have been the real offender. Tanjiro insists that she doesn't eat people, but the demon slayer doesn't believe him because she recently tried to eat him. He assures her that she will transform back into a human. but she is informed that this transformation is permanent. The man brings his sword to his neck and says, "I'll find a way." Tanjiro falls on his knees and begs him not to take away the final piece of his family as he thinks about his deceased mother and brothers. The Demon Slayer, furious, tells him to stop pleading in front of people, because it only makes it easier for others to murder him. He tells Tanjiro that if groveling were the least bit effective, then his family would not be dead, and harshly admonishes him for claiming that he could help his sister and hunt down a demon despite being weak. He tells Tanjiro that perhaps the demons know how to cure his sister and change her back into a human, but insists that he should not get his hopes up since they will not be willing to help. He explains to the boy that it was his fault that she was captured in the first place, and that, if he had wanted to, he could have murdered both of them at the same time. Despite all the suffering he had just experienced, the Demon Slayer begs Tanjiro not to cry and give up now as he watches the tears roll down his cheeks. Nezuko is stabbed in the shoulder by the young man, and Tanjiro strikes back by tossing a stone at him, which is swiftly deflected. Tanjiro reacts swiftly, notices his dropped hatchet, and charges the Demon Slayer in a frontal attack motivated by emotion. When the Demon Slayer notices Tanjiro's feeble effort, he strikes his sword handle into his back, rendering him comatose. He abruptly realizes Tanjiro isn't carrying any weapons. He hears the sound of a spinning object, looking up in time and ducking his head to the side as the hatchet flies towards him, barely missing its mark. Nezuko breaks free of the swordsman's hold in his short lapse of focus. Kicked back, he sees the demon about to pounce on the unconscious Tanjiro. Nezuko stands in front of her brother, prepared to defend him, rather than killing him. He realizes that Nezuko is wounded, and using her energy to battle him, while also trying to cure her wounds, and avoid eating Tanjiro for food, as she attacks him in an attempt to defend him. The swordsman decides to spare her, after realizing that this demon is unique, surrendering his sword, and instead putting her to sleep. As Tanjiro lays in the snow, he is visited by visions of his deceased family. His mother apologizes for leaving him, and asks that he take care of Nezuko. He awakens to find her beside him with a bamboo muzzle. Having waited for him to regain consciousness, the Demon Slayer instructs him to find an old man named Sakonji Urokodaki, who lives at the foot of Mount Sagiri, telling him that he, Giyu Tomioka, had sent him. Giyu cautions him not to expose Nezuko to sunlight before she vanishes. Tanjiro grabs Nezuko's hand and they leave their home together, heading for the mountain after burying his family in the front yard of their home. Tanjiro approaches a local farmer to ask permission to transport his basket, along with some straw and bamboo to repair it, to Mount Sagiri. When the farmer agrees, Tanjiro offers to pay. Tanjiro wants to offer the farmer money, but the farmer refuses since it has holes. But Tanjiro insistently tries to pay him. He yells in pain, and then tells Tanjiro he can have it for free once more. Tanjiro then tosses a few coins into his hand, thanks him, and quickly leaves. Nezuko is discovered by Tanjiro in a neighboring dirt tunnel. She has likewise dug herself into the ground, demonstrating her strong aversion to being exposed to the sun. Tanjiro asks if she can fit into the basket after fixing it while speaking slowly, because he isn't sure if she can fully comprehend him. Tanjiro straps the basket to his back when she contracts to fit inside. Tanjiro is now able to carry her and shield her from the sun as he makes his way to the mountain. En route, he asks a local woman for directions and she warns him that people have been going missing recently and advises him to be cautious. Tanjiro and Nezuko locate a shrine in the woods as night falls. He runs inside after smelling blood as he approaches. He freezes when he opens the doors and sees a demon within, devouring numerous bodies. Nezuko starts salivating at the smell of blood. Tanjiro uses his hatchet to slice the demon's neck as he lunges at him. The demon, who was somewhat taken aback by the cut, displays his potent regeneration abilities and quickly heals it. The monster moves with great speed before abruptly grabbing Tanjiro, who is unable to respond in time. Nezuko fights the impulse to eat the demon's head off and hurries to save her sibling despite the stench of blood. Initially believing she had killed him, the demon's body attempts to grab him, forcing Nezuko to kick the body to keep it at bay. The nearby demon's head begins talking to him, annoyed that he was right about one of them being a demon. The head grows arms and attacks Tanjiro, while his body batters Nezuko about and throws her deep into the nearby forest. Tanjiro fights by headbutting the demon, stunning him with the demon's hard skull. The demon's head is hooked to his hatchet. He throws the hatchet towards a tree, impaling the head. Tanjiro discovers Nezuko's body kicking her toward the brink of a cliff. He throws the body over the edge after tackling it. While the body crashes heavily to the rocks below, Nezuko holds her brother to prevent him from falling. The demon's head is knocked out after experiencing the suffering of its body. Tanjiro discovers the head, still alive but comatose, and prepares to kill it with a knife. He justifies it by arguing that killing it would help save others, but he is still hesitant to slay the demon, delaying his action long enough for a man to come behind him. The stranger points to a rock and tells Tanjiro that he cannot kill it with a knife. Tanjiro freezes in the middle of having to repeatedly pound the head. The man catches his scent and believes he is too kind to even kill demons. At that moment, the sun rises and the light burns the demon away into ash. He realizes that the demon is now dead from even little sunlight and runs to find Nezuko. He is relieved to see her inside the basket in the temple, safe from the sunlight. The guy identifies himself as Sakonji Urokodaki after burying the temple's deceased, and he assumes Tanjiro is the young man Giyu had sent for him. When Tanjiro begins to introduce himself and Nezuko, Sakonji interrupts and demands to know what will happen if Nezuko eats someone. His hesitation to kill even a demon is criticized by Sakonji, who advises him to kill Nezuko if she kills someone and then commit suicide afterward, since that's what it means to travel with your sister who became a demon. Tanjiro now recognizes the danger as Sakonji issues a warning that he must never let it happen. He carries Nezuko and follows him as a test to see if he is ready to join the Demon Slayer Corps. Tanjiro strives to catch up, wondering how old he is and how he is able to move so quickly and with such little footfall. As the sun set, an exhausted Tanjiro has reached Sakonji's house at the foot of the mountain. Struggling to catch his breath, he asks if he had passed the test. To this, Sakonji only tells him the test will now begin and they will climb the mountain, causing Tanjiro to scream in shock. Tanjiro, who is still feeling the effects of his run's tiredness and is now feeling lightheaded, and Sakonji continue their ascent of the mountain with Nezuko safe and sound inside his cabin. Sakonji suddenly halts in his tracks and looks towards Tanjiro. Before disappearing, he gives the youngster instructions to descend the mountain before sunrise. Tanjiro is certain that he can use his keen nose to down the mountain before dawn, despite his first astonishment. As he runs down the peak, his optimism quickly fades when he learns the mountain contains numerous traps within. After being injured by several, he realizes he won't make it down if he continues to get hit, and his problem is worsened by the mountain's thin air, causing him difficulty in breathing. Before embarking on his descent down Mount Sagiri, Tanjiro takes a deep breath to compose himself and isolate the sense of the mountain. He is urged to continue for Nezuko's sake, even though he is hurt by a bamboo weapon devoid of the human fragrance he had been avoiding. Sakonji awakens to find a bloodied and battered Tanjiro at his door. Sakonji remembers the letter Giyu wrote to him. Giyu apologizes for his impatient request to have him train someone, but he informs him that Tanjiro, who was courageous enough to confront him, wants to become a demon slayer. He adds his view that Tanjiro has a good sense of smell, just like Sakonji, and that Nezuko won't hurt anyone. When Sakonji sees Tanjiro, who is worn out and hurt, he takes him as a pupil.